Hey everybody, we are starting block number 7. It's called Star Puzzle. It is another half square triangle quilt block. So you can see the fabrics that I have laid out. Again, we're going to be making 2 blocks to go into our straight stitching sew sampler quilt. And I'll tell you what I have here. So I have the background pieces. There are 6 4-inch squared background pieces, and I have 6 4-inch squared blue polka dot pieces, and then 4 4-inch squared pink pieces. And so I have them for each of the blocks. And so what we're going to do is, like we did in, I'm looking at the other blocks here. So far in the 6 blocks that we've completed, all of them but one have had half square triangles of some variation. And so this one will have half square triangles as well. So hopefully you're becoming pretty proficient in making the half square triangles. So we'll make them today. Just like we've done the others, we will take our fabrics and line the right sides face together, and then we'll take them to our sewing machine and then sew down the center of the blocks on both sides of the center of the block, and we will cut those blocks, and then we will have our half square triangles. So I'm going to take the materials over to the sewing machine, and then we will get started. Before I take the squares over to the sewing machine to piece together the half square triangles, I thought it would be prudent to stage the fabric so that I don't get mixed up with which colors are going together to make the half square triangles. So for this block, the Star Puzzle block, what I have are 4 of the background pieces with 4 of the blue pieces, and then I have 2 of the pink pieces with 2 of the blue pieces, and then 2 of the pink pieces with 2 of the white pieces. So we will now make the half square triangles, and then follow up with the pressing of the seams, and then also trimming them down to 3.5 inches squared. The next step here for our block number 7 is to actually begin to piece the squares together. So I have all the squares all laid out, and so I will just begin the process of piecing them together. I will chain piece them together, and then we'll come back and have 2 new blocks. So I'm nearly finished with block number 7 of our straight stitching sew sampler quilt that we're working on. So let's go ahead and get started. As a reminder, we are using the 1/4 inch foot, and I'm using a 1/4 inch foot that has the guide on the side, so that I can, as best as possible, make sure all of my stitches as accurately as possible are a 1/4 inch seam. So let's get started. hopefully you made it this far in the video and really in the series. I'm really curious to know from people what's more interesting to see. Um, the block as it comes together, where we're really just you know, taking each little square here and piecing them together so that we get the larger block. I think it's kind of cool when you see that at the you know, at an elevated speed, so it looks, I don't know, not like a cartoon or anything, but it just looks good coming together, as opposed to potentially watching the actual chain piecing. For me, that's, you know, not very interesting to see, but perhaps for newer quilters who this, you know, this particular activity is geared towards, maybe that's a more valuable thing to see. So if you wouldn't mind leaving me a comment with your opinion on that question, I would appreciate it. I do want to make sure the videos are you know, informational, so that you can watch the videos and pick up new skills or new ideas, a new pattern to complete. But at the same time, I don't want them to be you know, boring, where you're just looking at the same thing over and over. So I am very much interested in your feedback. I'm sitting here talking to myself, saying that I hope I remember how this block is laid out. I did not take a picture. I know I have suggested that in previous videos, that once you have your block laid out, that you take a picture so that you can refer to it in the event that any of your pieces get you know, jostled about, or if you're, as you are chain piecing and then putting the pieces back on your design board, that you put them back in the order in which they are intended to be laid out for. The block, I didn't take a picture, but I suppose it wouldn't matter anyway, because I am using my phone as a video camera. But I think I will be able to, just by virtue of having the other half of the block still laying here, figure out with little issues how to lay these pieces back out. Okay, so now all of the rows are pressed, so I'm going to pin them together, and then I will stitch them together, and then we'll have our completed block. Pinning is, I guess it's as with all other things in quilting, is an optional step. I think it's really important though to do it, especially if you're doing half square triangles, because you want to make sure that your points are on point, that they stay intact, that when you finish your piecing, that you get like the star effect or whatever effect you're going after with the half square triangle. So it can slow you down a bit, but I think it's well worth the time and effort to actually take the time to pin. I have tried other methods where you just line up the points, or line up, I don't know what you want to call it, but line up your pieces and run it through the sewing machine, but you hold the points together with your hand until you get to the sewing machine. I've tried that. It doesn't work very well for me. In general, the material ends up slipping slightly, and then after you've completed your stitch line, you see that your points are not aligned. So I like to go ahead and actually just pin them together. I've also tried with Wonder Clips. That doesn't work so well for me either. I really like the pin because you can take the needle right up and through like the second piece of fabric, and I think I'll show this on camera so you understand what I'm talking about. You can take the needle right up and through the fabric and remove your needle at the same time, so that way you're pretty sure that the material has remained in place and not repositioned itself while the sewing machine is feeding the two layers under the needle with the feed dogs. Let's see here. Okay, one more pin, and then we will go to the sewing machine, and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about the needle on the sewing machine working in concert with the pinning that you've done. Okay. I guess the one thing you do have to pay attention to is that you don't stick yourself like I just did. Okay, so I'm going to reposition the camera, and then hopefully this will show up. Let's see here. So hopefully you can see what I am talking about, where I still have my pin in the fabric and the needle is just beginning to like punch into the pink section here. And so I can just slow down the stitching, and I can watch to see when the needle has entered onto the blue side. So now I know these two pieces, or at this point, these two rows are not gonna move because the needle's already into this blue section of the seam allowance. So I can take the pin out and keep sewing and know that that should be lined up pretty well once I finish this. And so you just keep doing the same thing. This is maybe a little bit more challenging to see because both parts of the seam allowance are white, but I'm doing just the same thing, slowing down to make sure the needle has entered into the next square, and then I can remove my pin and keep going. And you do want to make sure, I mean, I've done it, and in practice I do it often, which is sewing across the needle. But you do risk the opportunity or the chance of the needle on your sewing machine striking the needle that you have pinning your fabric together and then actually breaking your needle. So that's why most people recommend that you take the pins out. So that's why I like to kind of slow down at those points where the two blocks are meeting, just so I can make sure the needle has entered into the second side of the block, but it doesn't actually strike the needle. Okay, so now I am just finger pressing the rows that I have sewn together, and then I will come back and sew the top and bottom pieces of the block together. Let's see if we can change that. Okay, so the blocks are put together. Hopefully you can see that here. I really do like this pattern. I think it's, I mean, I like the pattern itself, but I really love these colors together. So now I'm going to press the seams open, and then we will be done with block 7. Okay, there it is. So block number 7 is completed. I'll just move the camera a little closer. It's not working out the way that I anticipated. Okay. So, yeah, this is block number 7. So I'm going to right now pin it to my design wall and then give you a view of the other blocks. So if you haven't been following, if you have joined this series here at this particular video, you can get an idea of what the previous blocks look like, and then I encourage you to go back to view those videos so that you can see how to construct those blocks. So let me get this pinned up here, and then I'll give you a visual of all 7 blocks thus far, and then we will call today's video completed. Okay, so these are all 7 of the blocks that we have completed so far. So again, if you are just now joining this video and you didn't see how the previous blocks were put together, I encourage you to go back and look at those videos and then catch up with us, and we're off to block number 8. Remember, in this series with the straight stitching Sew Sampler quilt, there will be 10 blocks. So we have 3 more blocks to put together, and then we will piece the entire quilt together, and we'll just go from there. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I really do appreciate feedback. So if you have any questions or any comments about the video, please feel free to post them, and we will see you in the next video.